A landlord claims that if instead of punishing landlords, they streamlined the eviction process, more homeless people would be housed. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it has to do with the homelessness issue and the fact that so many cities out there have put strong tenant and eviction protections against landlords, okay? And I personally believe that a lot of the strong tenant protections that they put out there are what's causing, the affordable housing crisis. It's causing homelessness issues, and it's making it much more difficult for even people who can afford housing to find the housing that they need. So my personal belief is that, hey, we need to, basically remove the bureaucracy, remove the regulations, cut all the restrictions off because they are crippling our housing system. And that is why we're having so many problems right now. And the landlord who wrote this letter in this article, he agrees. I mean, he says, man, you know what? This doesn't make any sense. And, this is something that landlords across the country have been saying for a long time. Anytime that you add additional rules and regulations, it adds to the cost. And it makes landlords who are friendly and who are doing everything right, it makes us want to get out of the business. Okay, we don't want to deal with the nonsense. We never did. And you are scaring us away. And that's stupid. Okay, you shouldn't be trying to scare, especially the small landlords away. The small landlords provide a disproportionate amount of the affordable housing out there, and they're the ones who provide housing in places where a lot of the larger landlords do not even want to venture. Okay, so when you see a single family home neighborhood and you're looking for a rental in that neighborhood, it's most likely owned by a small landlord. You don't see a lot of large landlords who are saying, hey, I'm going to go in this single family home neighborhood and buy up a house here or there. That just doesn't happen as often. Now I know somebody's going to bring up the large REITs and the corporate landlords who are doing that now, but they are still a very, very small percentage of the single family home landlords that are out there. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you believe that all of the eviction protections are actually causing the homelessness issue? Or do you believe it's a combination of things? I believe that it's a combination of things. I believe that it's being exacerbated by all of the restrictions they're putting on landlords, and whether it causes the homeless issue or not, right? The truth of the matter is that we were promised certain property rights in this country, and they're written into the Constitution of the country. Okay, our property rights are in the Constitution, and yet here we are, and we're still arguing over what we can and can't do with our properties, and they're literally writing laws that go against those constitutional amendments. So anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. This article is coming from the San Diego Union Tribune, and it says, readers react, opinion, laws that punish landlords keep rental market tight and exacerbate the homelessness crisis. Yeah, and I told you, I've explained this in so many videos, so it's not a very long article. So what I'll do is I'll read the entire thing, and then I'll let you know what I think. If governments would streamline the eviction process, a large percentage of the homeless population could be housed. By UT Letters. There's a solution to the homelessness issue that is being ignored. Many homeowners would happily rent out rooms. I did it for a couple of years to an at-risk person. Unfortunately, it ended badly when he quit paying rent and damaged my property. Anti-landlord laws caused the eviction to take almost 4 months and cost me thousands of dollars, none of which was recoverable. All the while with the tenant living in my home without paying rent, and my home and person in danger of his whims. If governments would streamline the eviction process, a large percentage of the homeless population could be housed to their benefit and the homeowners. The reality is that we can't expect politicians to loosen their death grip on the monopoly they give themselves over our property owners' rights. And that's by Raymond Roth of Oceanside, California. So let's dive into this letter because, obviously this guy, he's a small landlord, okay? He's renting out, it looks like he's renting out rooms in his house to people who are, at risk, a little bit higher risk individuals. Now, I personally don't do this, but I do have respect for the landlords who say, hey, I am going to do this. And, that they are actually providing the housing to people who normally would end up homeless. So that's a good thing, right? But how does he get treated by the government? They tell him, well, you can't evict this person. Meanwhile, this person is dangerous, this person is tearing up his property, and the person is not paying rent. And so he's got to house this person for 4 months, not getting any rent, having his property torn apart, and getting threatened or intimidated by this person. That's wrong, okay? Now, I'm not saying that the person should have no rights as a tenant, but when we're talking about a person who, is not paying rent especially, we should be able to get them out of there as quickly as possible. They shouldn't be a burden upon the property owner to the point where they could actually lose the home. Okay, and that's what it sounds like, could have happened in this situation where the landlord himself is actually living in the property, and then he's got a dangerous person who doesn't like him because he's asking for the money that he's owed, And so, yeah, you take away the small landlords who want to do this sort of thing, you take away their motivation to do it because they know, hey, there's no reward for this. The only thing we're going to do is suffer. And, the state of California especially is probably the worst place because they don't care about property rights. They don't. They just think that, hey, the government knows best. Every landlord is evil. That's one of these lies they go out there and tell. They act like there's just this epidemic of bad landlords out there, and it's the exact opposite of that, right? The bad landlords that are out there are the, so small of a minority that it's not even funny. I'm talking about less than 1% of all the landlords out there are, the bad landlords that they claim are such a huge problem. Yet when they implement rules to get that 1%, but the other 99% have to comply with those rules. And they will, to a point. They either comply with the rules or they say, hey, I don't want to deal with it, so they decide not to rent their properties out, or they put extremely high restrictions on who can rent their property. Basically they make it so that it is a lot harder for people to find housing. And that is the reason why there could be a possible homelessness issue. Okay, so if people are unable to find housing or unable to find affordable housing, then they could end up on the streets. And that is what happens when you punish landlords. You tell us that, hey, you guys making money just isn't a priority, and you act like we should be the social welfare providers for a bunch of people who in many cases just are lazy. I mean, that's the most I can say. If you don't pay your rent, you don't meet the obligation that you made when you signed that lease agreement, that contract, right? Then you're lazy. That's what I say, okay? And if you cannot pay your rent because of, some kind of life circumstance, like you lost your job or something, right? You need to move on. You need to move on to somewhere where you can afford, because that is not my problem. Okay, it is your problem. And, just like it isn't the problem of the grocery store if you can't afford food, or it isn't the problem of the water company if you can't afford your water bill, or the electric company if you can't afford your electric bill. It isn't my problem if you can't afford your rent. Yet that is the way that a lot of these governments are set up. They make it so that, hey, well, this person needs housing. Well, they need food too. They need water too. They need electricity. They need a car. We can't give them everything for free. So, I agree with this landlord that, this can help exacerbate the horrible homelessness issue, especially in a place like California and in San Diego area in particular, where housing is so expensive.